Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Hope you have a good day out there, good evening, or where you hear this video. Well, here's another controversial video. This time it's going to be a different way. I was thinking about that last video I did a while back. But this one is going to be considered one of the most domestic terrorist groups in America that goes back 200 or 300 years. That's the KKK. And after I show you these videos about the KKK, I'm going to give a solution to people who think like the KKK. I'm going to show you the states where they can live at and have their own demographic, and none of the people, they wouldn't have these problems if people will stay to their state and have like-minded people. But here is the video.
Thousands of patriots are fighting back against this government takeover, and they're turning to a little-known IRA loophole, a 100% legal.
So really, this is about you being infamous is why you did it. Are you kidding?
From mass shootings to chilling public attacks, we're about to witness the raw and explosive reactions of these individuals whose hatred was as deadly as their actions. Let's get started. The Portland Max train attack, a chilling episode of violence, will be etched in the memory of those who watched while it unfolded. Now, Jeremy Joseph Christian, the man at the center of it all, is facing a heavy sentence for this despicable crime. Take a seat at Multnomah County Circuit, where the sentencing unfolds. The Portland Max train attack, a chilling episode of violence, unfolded on the 26th of May, 2017, leaving an indelible mark on the city's history. Jeremy Joseph Christian, a white supremacist with a history marred by criminal activity, including kidnapping and robbery, boarded the train. Christian's extremist views were no secret, as his social media presence was littered with neo-Nazi and anti-Semitic rhetoric.
I'm a revolutionary. We brought all the Semitic monotheist child molesters over here. I'm a Viking. We brought them over here. Come on, we got prior land claims.
On that fateful day, his vitriol spilled over. Christian launched into a tirade of racist and anti-Muslim slurs aimed at two black teenagers, one donning a hijab. It was then that three courageous men, Ricky John Best, Taliesin Murdin Namkai Meche, and Micah David Cole Fletcher, stepped forward in an attempt to quell the brewing storm. Their intervention was met with swift and deadly violence. Within a mere 12 seconds, Christian brandished a knife, fatally wounding Ricky Best and Namkai Meche, and seriously injuring Fletcher. As the Max train came to an abrupt halt, news of the attack spread like wildfire. The authorities moved quickly, and Christian was apprehended near a medical center. Battleground for the clashing narratives of a man who had sown discord and a society that demanded accountability. Christian's behavior in court was erratic and disruptive. He spouted outbursts that echoed his extremist beliefs, showing little remorse for the lives he had violently disrupted.
Beat your guy, Portland. You got no safe place. So get out if you don't like free speech. Liar. Liar. You're not the only black person on Max. Liar.
After a meticulous and emotionally charged trial, the verdict was delivered. Jeremy Christian was found guilty on all counts. He was handed 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring that the man who had inflicted so much pain would spend the rest of his days behind bars. But Jeremy wasn't about to go down without a fight. Sweltering summer of 2015, an act of hate would etch the names Kayla Norton and Jose Torres into the annals of infamy. These angry members of the Ku Klux Klan, fueled by racial animosity, disrupted a peaceful birthday celebration with their vitriolic presence. Today, we delve into the story of how their actions at a child's party led to life-changing sentences by Judge William McLean. It was July 2015, a mere month after the Charleston church shooting, where 9 African-American worshippers were gunned down in a racially motivated attack.
Good morning, America. Breaking news, deadly church shooting. Tragedy in Charleston. At least 9 people killed overnight in a massacre in a historic black church.
The incident reignited a fierce debate across the United States about the Confederate flag's place in modern society. Amid this, Kayla Norton, Jose Torres, and their affiliates formed a group known as Respect the Flag. With Confederate battle flags mounted on their pickup trucks, they embarked on what they called a flag ride through Douglas and Paulding counties.
Hey, look at it! We'll see y'all again! We'll see y'all again!
African-American citizens celebrating a child's birthday reported a gang of trucks with passengers shouting racial slurs and issuing threats. The partygoers, mostly African-American, were stunned as the Respect the Flag members, including Norton and Torres, began to terrorize them.
Pulling rifles out on us. 5 trucks with white guys on rebel flags. They got knives and guns. Yay!
The group stepped out of their trucks and brandished their Confederate flags like weapons, as well as a loaded shotgun aggressively toward the partygoers. Fortunately, no one was harmed before Norton, Torres, and their fellow aggressors were identified and arrested. The courtroom became a stage where the consequences of hate were laid bare for all to see. The defendants' own actions painted a clear picture of the crime-making terroristic threats and violating the Georgia Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. For Torres, the situation was even graver, as he faced an additional charge of aggravated assault for his use of the shotgun during the incident.
26-year-old Jose Ismael Torres, sentenced to 20 years. He was ordered to serve 13 years for terroristic threats, gang activity, among other charges stemming from this incident.
Torres received a sentence of 13 years in prison, followed by 7 years probation, while Norton was sentenced to 6 years in prison with 9 years probation. Both were banished from Douglas County upon their release. Norton and Torres, now facing the reality of years behind bars, were visibly shaken, their tears a testament to the magnitude of their situation.
There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society.
10 lives were extinguished, communities torn apart, and a nation left grappling with the weight of another hate-fueled massacre. As the gavel came down at the Erie County Court, 19-year-old Peyton Gendron is faced with the stark reality of his actions after receiving a life sentence devoid of parole, a sentence meant to echo the permanence of the loss felt by so many. On a seemingly ordinary Saturday 14th May 2020, the city of Buffalo, New York, became the epicenter of a national tragedy. Peyton Gendron, a young man of 18 years, embarked on a sinister journey from his hometown of Conklin, New York, to the Tops Friendly Market supermarket in Buffalo's predominantly Black East Side neighborhood.
When I first saw him shooting, he shot a woman, he shot a deacon, he shot another woman, and then he went in the store and started shooting again.
A white supremacist, Gendron was armed with a Bushmaster XM15 AR-15 style rifle, a Savage Axis XP hunting rifle, and a Mossberg 500 shotgun as he set out on his 200-mile drive to Buffalo. Before then, he had penned a manifesto, a disturbing document that espoused white supremacist views and praised past perpetrators of racially motivated violence. Gendron had chosen Buffalo for its significant black population, aiming to inflict maximum devastation.
This is the worst nightmare that any community can face, and we are hurting and we are seething right now as a community.
At approximately 2:30 in the afternoon, Gendron, armed and armored, opened fire, striking 4 individuals before he proceeded inside. Surveillance footage captured the horror as he continued his rampage through the aisles, methodically targeting victims. Shoppers and employees alike were caught in a nightmare, with no escape from the barrage of 60 rounds that echoed through the store.
Oh my God, he shot so many people in there.
Among the chaos, a retired Buffalo police lieutenant, working as a security guard, attempted to intervene. His bravery was met with fatal gunfire, but his actions undoubtedly saved lives. In total, 13 individuals were shot, 10 of whom succumbed to their injuries. Gendron, who had live-streamed part of his attack on the platform Twitch, was eventually taken into custody without further bloodshed.
There's a lot of people dead in there.
This exclusive video capturing the shock and terror in the shooting's aftermath as the gunman was arrested.
Charged with first-degree murder and domestic terrorism motivated by hate, Gendron's legal proceedings unfolded, bolstered by the irrefutable evidence of his premeditated actions and the hateful manifesto he had left behind.
It appeared that his plans were to drive out of here and then continue driving down Jefferson Avenue, looking to shoot more black people.
In November 2020, he pleaded guilty to all state charges, expressing his apology to the family of the victims and accepting the grim reality of spending the rest of his days behind bars.
I'm very sorry for the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones. I cannot express how much I regret all the decisions I made leading up to my actions on May 14th.
I'm sorry, he's gonna go kill more people.
11 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole were handed down, one for each life he had stolen, and an additional one for the terror he had inflicted upon a community.
There can be no mercy for you, no understanding, no second chances. The damage you have caused is too great, and the people you have hurt are too valuable to this community. You will never see the light of day as a free man.
Federal charges still loom over Gendron, with prosecutors contemplating the pursuit of the death penalty, a decision that would mark the first such case under President Joe Biden's administration, which had largely distanced itself from capital punishment.
The gunman in the mass shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, sentenced to serve 90 consecutive life terms.
This next case takes us to the Western District Court of Texas, where Patrick Wood Crusius is being handed 90 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for a chilling crime that rocked the world when it first hit. Take a seat as we delve into the chilling events of that fateful day, the aftermath, and the societal reverberations of a crime rooted in hatred and prejudice. On the morning of August 3rd, 2019, a young man from Allen, Texas, would drive over 600 miles to El Paso, carrying with him not just a semi-automatic rifle, but also a manifesto laden with hate. Patrick Wood Crusius, a 21-year-old, held extremist views and a deep-seated animosity towards immigrants.
This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas, the author writes. They are the instigators, not me. I am simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by an invasion.
As the morning progressed, unsuspecting shoppers at the Cielo Vista Walmart, a popular destination near the Mexican border, went about their routine, unaware of the impending catastrophe. Crusius, armed and determined, entered the store shortly before 10:30 a.m. local time. Within minutes, the sound of gunfire echoed through the aisles, turning a place of commerce into a scene of chaos and carnage. Store manager's active shooter alert prompted a swift evacuation, with customers and employees seeking refuge or fleeing in terror. First responders arrived within 6 minutes, a rapid response that likely prevented further loss of life. Crusius was arrested without incident at a nearby intersection, his rampage leaving 23 dead and 22 injured, a toll that would include American, Mexican, and German nationals.
Police in El Paso say 20 people are dead and 26 more were wounded.
In the wake of the shooting, the manifesto Crusius posted online minutes before the attack became a focal point of investigation. It revealed his motivations, steeped in white nationalist rhetoric, and his deliberate targeting of the Latino community. In the immediate aftermath of the El Paso Walmart shooting, a community was plunged into mourning, and a nation was forced to confront the grim reality of hate-fueled violence.
Following the lead that I've heard from the El Paso Police Department, where they say there are strong indications that this shooter wrote that manifesto and that this was inspired by his hatred of people here in this community.
Patrick Wood Crucius was charged with capital murder, and federal authorities launched a hate crime investigation, given the clear racial motivations outlined in his manifesto. As the case progressed, Crucius entered a guilty plea to 90 federal charges, including hate crimes and firearms offenses, thus avoiding a potential death sentence and instead receiving 90 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
The court sentences you as follows. Count 1, malice murder, life without the possibility of parole.
In the quiet neighborhood of Satilla Shores, Georgia, a shocking event unfolded that would ripple across the nation, igniting a firestorm of debate on race, justice, and vigilantism. Take a seat at the Glynn County Superior Court, where Judge Timothy Walmsley presides over this case involving father and son. On February 23, 2020, Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man, was out for a jog when he was tragically gunned down. The men responsible, Gregory and Travis McMichael, alongside their neighbor William Roddy Bryan, claimed they suspected Arbery of burglary.
Investigators looking closely at surveillance video appearing to show the final moments of Ahmaud Arbery just before he was shot and killed by a father and son who said they were trying to make a citizen's arrest.
Gregory McMichael, a 64-year-old retired police officer and former Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office investigator, spotted Ahmaud from his front yard. Gregory, alongside his 34-year-old son, Travis McMichael, who also had experience in law enforcement, armed themselves with a .357 Magnum revolver and a shotgun, respectively, and pursued Ahmaud in their white pickup truck. Michaels claimed they recognized Ahmaud from security camera footage circulated among neighbors, footage that showed a man wandering around a nearby house under construction. They suspected him of committing recent burglaries in the area, although no evidence linked Ahmaud to any such crimes.
He's been caught on the camera a bunch before, black guy like weekend.
The father and son duo decided to take matters into their own hands, initiating a chase that would have deadly consequences. The chase came to a head when Travis McMichael exited his truck with the shotgun in hand. A confrontation ensued between Travis and Ahmaud, who struggled with Travis over the firearm and ended with 3 gunshot wounds. Despite their admission that they had pursued and confronted Ahmaud, no arrests were made on that day. The McMichaels claimed they acted in self-defense and were attempting a citizen's arrest.
Travis gets out with the shotgun and runs up there, and I said, Travis, don't shoot, don't do anything. The guy turns and comes at him, and they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him right in the chest.
It wasn't until the video of the shooting, recorded by Bryan, was leaked 2 months later that the case gained national attention. Within days, the McMichaels were arrested and charged with murder and aggravated assault. Bryan was also arrested as his involvement in the chase and the recording of the incident implicated him in the events leading to Ahmaud's death.
Police have arrested and charged 2 white men for the killing of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery, an unarmed black man who was shot while jogging in his neighborhood back in February.
In November 2021, attention turned to the Glynn County Courthouse. The prosecution contended that the McMichaels had no immediate knowledge of any crime committed by Ahmaud, undermining their claim of attempting a citizen's arrest. The defense claimed that the McMichaels were within their rights to perform a citizen's arrest. Travis McMichael took the stand in his own defense, claiming that Ahmaud had attacked him and grabbed his shotgun.
He had my gun. He struck me. It was obvious that he was. It was obvious that he was attacking me. That if he would have got the shotgun from me, then it was this is a life or death situation.
Travis McMichael, his father Gregory McMichael, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan were found guilty of murder in the death of Ahmaud Arbery. The McMichaels were sentenced to life in prison with no parole and an additional 20 years, while Roddy Bryan was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years.
A mandatory life sentence is imposed.
In the quiet town of Belmont, Massachusetts, a simple road rage argument between 2 drivers soon escalated into a harrowing tale of hate and tragedy that not only shook this peaceful town, but led to the untimely death of Henry Tapia. Join us at the Middlesex Court, where the trial of 56-year-old driver Dean Capsalis is about to be sentenced. On a cold January in 2021, the streets of Belmont, Massachusetts became the backdrop for a confrontation with fatal consequences. Henry Tapia, a 34-year-old black man, was driving through the neighborhood, unaware that his life was about to intersect with Dean Capsalis, a 56-year-old white man, in the most tragic of ways.
Police say a driver intentionally hit a man during an argument in the street with his car, and that victim later died.
The incident began with a seemingly minor traffic infraction after Capsalis failed to use a turn signal. This angered Tapia, and both men began to exchange words. Unfortunately, the argument escalated quickly, with Capsalis uttering a racial slur directed at Tapia. Like this wasn't bad enough, he climbed back into his pickup truck, revved the engine, and accelerated towards Tapia.
In this case, the allegation is that the defendant intentionally acted to strike the victim with his vehicle.
The impact was immediate and devastating. Tapia was struck by the vehicle and suffered injuries that, despite the swift response of emergency services, would prove to be fatal as he died shortly after. Capsalis, rather than staying at the scene, fled, but later, in a move that would be scrutinized during the trial, Capsalis turned himself in to the police. His fiancée defended him, saying Tapia threatened him first.
Yes, the N-word is inappropriate, but Dean did not come out of that car screaming a racial slur. Mr. Tapia threatened him.
The trial of Dean Capsalis, set against the backdrop of a nation confronting its own issues with race and justice, became a focal point for many. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Marion Ryan, presented a case that hinged on the argument that Capsalis's actions were not only deliberate, but also racially motivated.
54-year-old Dean Capsalis of Hudson appeared in court today on Zoom from jail. He's now charged with murder.
After the jury delivered their guilty verdict, the focus shifted to determining the appropriate punishment for the crime committed against Henry Tapia. Capsalis himself took the opportunity to apologize to Tapia's family, expressing shame for his use of the racial slur and the irreversible harm he had caused.
My deepest sympathy to Mr. Tapia's family and loved ones. I truly am sorry for your loss.
The judge sentenced Capsalis to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years, a sentence he described as proportional to the severity of the offense.
2015, Dylan Roof wanted to spark a race war by slaughtering 9 black churchgoers, but that plan backfired when he was caught and condemned to death. Now he faces a new hell in prison, where white supremacists are outnumbered and outcast.
Police in Charleston, South Carolina say a fellow inmate assaulted the suspect in the deadly Charleston church shooting. Charleston County officials say the assault on Dylan Roof happened outside his cell this morning.
This is what happens to KKK members in prison. Larry Webster. July 19th, 2000, a federal jury in Houston, Texas, awarded damages totaling $55,000 to a member of the KKK who had been brutally beaten by black prisoners in a shared cell. But why did that happen? 1993, Larry Webster, 42, was arrested in Galveston, Texas, and sent to the county jail to wait for a trial on kidnapping and robbery charges. But Larry wasn't just any regular offender. This was a man of the Ku Klux Klan, or KKK for short, a notorious white supremacist organization that has a real dark and troubling history in the U.S. Now, the KKK was established right after the end of the American Civil War, formed as a social organization for Confederate veterans, but it quickly transformed into a supremacist group dedicated to upholding racial segregation and white power. Since then, the group had carried out despicable acts of violence and racism, all in the name of purifying American society. Their targets go from Africans to Asians, Americans, Latinos to Jews, Muslims, homosexuals, atheists, and the list goes on. So you can probably imagine prison wouldn't be a walk in the park for Mr. Larry Webster. His wonderful tattoos were bound to make him a prime target. Webster asked to be placed in administrative segregation for his own safety. However, that request was denied due to overcrowding, and he was instead placed in a cell with black prisoners. As soon as they spotted his tattoos, they immediately recognized him as a Klansman. After being kicked in the face, he would suffer various injuries to his body, forcing him to go to the ER. Webster then decided to sue Galveston County. During the 4-day civil trial, Webster remarkably represented himself in court. He argued in his lawsuit that he was placed in a cell with black inmates, although his Klan background was well known to jailers, and that he was treated harshly for his beliefs. Now get this, in the end, he managed to win that case. The jury gave him $5,000 in actual damages, and $50,000 in punitive damages. The verdict also held Galveston County Sheriff's Major Eric Nevelow, who commanded the jail, and Sergeant Leslie Hobbs, who ran the inmate classification system, liable for the damages. The jury found them negligent in their treatment of Webster, who was so obviously at risk due to his white supremacist beliefs. Don Glewoski, the lawyer representing Galveston County, praised Webster's legal efforts, saying,
"He did a great job of representing himself. That's the first case I've lost, and I've been practicing for 17 years.
Despite this win, though, he was still sentenced to 10 years in prison for the kidnapping and robbery charges. Next up on this list, we have someone who proves that the danger of the KKK lurks not only amongst the inmates in prison, but also among correctional officers themselves. Thomas Jordan Driver. April 2nd, 2015. Authorities charged 2 state prison guards and a former co-worker who were identified as KKK with plotting to kill a former black inmate. It was all because of a fight that occurred between this inmate and one of the guards, Thomas Jordan Driver. The other guard involved was David Elliott Morin, and the third man, Charles Thomas Newcomb, had also worked as a prison guard but was eventually fired. Late 2014, Driver told the others that the inmate in question bit him during a brawl at the Department of Corrections facility in Lake Butler in this attempt to possibly give him AIDS and hepatitis. Driver was fuming as he ranted to his friends about that fight, being bitten, and the 9 months of blood work he had to endure. He would show him a photo of this inmate who had been let out of prison on supervised release, and told him that he wanted the guy 6 feet under. Now here's where things get really wild. All 3 of them got caught, thanks to an FBI informant who pretended to be on their side. This informant convinced them that he could help them get rid of their target for good. They talked about injecting insulin into him after kidnapping him from his Palatka home, or using a 9mm to just take him out if that didn't work.
Question just between you and me. A bullet to that guy in the chest. Satisfactory? Sounds good? Alright.
As part of the FBI's plan to apprehend the suspects and strengthen the case against them, they provided the informant with a burner phone containing a manipulated photograph of the inmate, making it appear as if he had been fatally shot. The informant showed the picture to all 3 men, capturing their victorious reactions on a secret recording. Each suspect smiled and expressed their delight, their words carefully documented by the informant. However, it was Driver who seemed to be the happiest.
Not what you wanted? Oh, yes. Are you happy with that, Buck? Yes, sir. Very much so. Okay.
Once the FBI had their incriminating evidence, they had arrested the 3 KKK members, charging them with conspiracy to commit murder. In response to these events, Department of Corrections Secretary Julie Jones emphasized her department's unwavering stance against racism and prejudice of any kind, stating that they have zero tolerance for such behavior.
The actions of these individuals are unacceptable and do not in any way represent the thousands of good, hardworking, and honorable correctional officers employed at the Department of Corrections,
Jones said. 2017, Thomas Jordan Driver, David Elliott Moran, and Charles Thomas Newcomb were all convicted of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thomas pled guilty and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. David and Charles, on the other hand, pled not guilty, but were eventually found guilty on the same charge and were given 12 years in prison. Thomas Terrence. 1968, Thomas Terrence was arrested after a fierce shootout with police during a failed assassination attempt on a prominent Jewish Mississippian. He was given 30 years in prison, but there he discovered a path to redemption. You see, half a century ago, Thomas felt like the country was changing for the worse. The civil rights movement infuriated him. His hatred of African Americans and Jewish people led him straight into the arms of the Ku Klux Klan. There was one more person who shared the same beliefs and harbored the same hatred as Terrence, and her name was Kathy Ainsworth. According to police sources and numerous acquaintances of the two, older fanatics had influenced Ainsworth and Terrence with propaganda and hate material. that came from organizations in Arizona, California, New Jersey, and many other states. They also started receiving training in firearms and explosives, getting ready to carry out a wicked plan. May 28, 1968, Ainsworth and Terrence participated in the bombing of the congregation Beth Israel. A month later, the duo drove to the home of Meyer Davidson, a Jewish community leader, planning to place a bomb on the side of his house below where they believed his bedroom to be. Ainsworth waited in their car while Terrence attempted to blow up Davidson's home with that homemade bomb, consisting of 29 sticks of dynamite. Unbeknownst to them, there was already a trap in place by the FBI and local police to catch him. A bloody shootout occurred. Ainsworth was shot in the neck and died immediately. Terrence survived numerous wounds and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Now, the prosecution had sought a death sentence under a rarely used state law regarding the criminal use of explosives. However, the jury declined to make a decision and left it to the judge, who spared Terrence's life. 1969, Terrence escaped from prison with two other convicts, Malcolm Houston, who was serving a 15-year for bank robbery, and Louis Shadoan, who was serving a 2-year for child molestation. Shadoan was killed in a shootout with the FBI, while Houston and Terrence later surrendered. Terrence spent 5 years in max security for the escape. Now, during that time, he read Mein Kampf and other books that fueled and furthered his worldview. He would start also reading Plato and Aristotle, and then some scripture. That's when he became convinced that he had gone drastically astray. He became a born-again Christian, renouncing his racist views. 1976, with the support of a Jewish community leader who believed in his redemption, Terrence secured an early release from prison after 8 years behind bars. He eventually obtained a seminary degree and a doctorate, pastored a non-denominational church in D.C. for 5 years, and spent the past 25 years working at the evangelical C.S. Lewis Institute in Washington. Today, he's a soft-spoken, mannerly 77-year-old who picks his words deliberately as he talks about the rise of hate crimes and bias in America, and actively advocates against racism. Edgar Ray Killen. 1964. Edgar Ray Killen planned and directed the murders of 3 civil rights activists. He was found guilty in state court of 3 counts of manslaughter and sentenced to 60 years in prison. Born in Philadelphia, Killen was the owner of a local sawmill and a former unsuccessful candidate for sheriff, until he met Sam Bowers, the co-founder of the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, who appointed him Kleagle, or Claiborne recruiter and organizer, for the Neshoba and Lauderdale County Klan. He zealously performed his duties, as evidenced by the extreme measures he was willing to undertake when the Freedom Summers Project took place. June 1964. Freedom Summer was a volunteer campaign launched in the U.S. attempting to register as many African-American voters as possible in Mississippi. Blacks had been restricted from voting since the turn of the century, due to barriers to voter registration and other laws. The project would set up dozens of freedom schools, freedom houses, and community centers, such as libraries, in small towns throughout Mississippi to aid the local black population. Now, during that time, James Chaney, 21, a young black man from Meridian, Mississippi, and Andrew Goodman, 20, and Michael Schwerner, 24, 2 Jewish men from New York, were actively involved in the campaign. However, their efforts were tragically cut short when they were wrongfully arrested, brutally ambushed, and ultimately murdered. After receiving a message from Cecil Price, the deputy sheriff of Neshoba County and a member of the Klan, Killen arranged a meeting with a group of fellow Klan members. During this gathering, he shared the details of a sinister plan he had devised with Price to ruthlessly end the lives of the 3 imprisoned men. The plan was set in motion when Price gave the order to release the men. As they drove out of town in their car, they were suddenly pulled over and kidnapped. They were driven to a different location and shot at close range.
Do not take apple cider vinegar before you see this. Vinegar works to help you slim down.
Gino Jennings has faced threats from various religious groups worldwide. Even the notorious Ku Klux Klan sent him a letter, warning him not to set foot in Memphis. They threatened him with dire consequences if he dared to visit the city. Their anger stems from the holiness message that Gino Jennings teaches, which challenged traditional Christianity. The KKK is a hate group in the United States that has a long history of violence and discrimination, primarily against African Americans, but also targeting other minority groups such as Jews, Catholics, and immigrants. It was founded in 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee, after the Civil War, by former Confederate soldiers. Initially, it aimed to resist the Reconstruction efforts and reassert white supremacy in the South. The Klan used intimidation, violence, and lynching to terrorize African Americans and maintain white dominance. Throughout its history, the Klan has gone through periods of prominence and decline, often tied to broader social and political changes. The Klan experienced a resurgence in the early 20th century, fueled by racism, nativism, and fears of social change. It reached its peak in the 1920s, with millions of members across the country, before declining again. During the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, the Klan resurfaced once more, violently opposing desegregation and equal rights for African Americans. Klan members bombed churches, homes, and businesses and engaged in beatings and death of civil rights activists. Today, while the Klan still exists in smaller numbers, it has been overshadowed by other white supremacist and extremist groups. However, its ideology of hate and bigotry continues to influence some individuals and fringe organizations, perpetuating racism and intolerance in society. Despite their anger toward Gino Jennings and the danger, Gino continues to boldly preach the message of truth, undeterred by those who oppose him.
Man, I got enemies all around the world, death threats, and people threaten me if I come to their town, they gonna kill me, and I love it like that, because then I try to get there quicker. I done got so many threats I can't. Ku Klux Klan even threatened. Man, I thought them fellas been retired. And I got a letter from the Klan out of Memphis. Wrote me and told me, you make us want to take out our sheets. You come here, we'll hang you in our backyard.
During a live broadcast, Gino Jennings read the letter that was sent to him by the KKK. The letter contained shocking and hateful messages, but despite the congregation's astonishment, Gino remained steadfast, showing no fear or hesitation. His boldness and fearlessness in the face of such hatred inspired everyone present. As he read the letter, the atmosphere crackled with tension, but Gino's unwavering demeanor calmed the room.
This letter says, well, well, well. Mr. Gino Jennings, we have been watching your program for some time now. How did a black loudmouth, son of a B... get on television? You're nothing more than a menace. Back in my day knew their place, but you don't know yours. But we have no problem in showing you your place. You preach this stuff called holiness, saying it is the true religion of God, when everyone knows that Christianity is the religion. It sickens me just to look at you. Your tongue should be cut out.
I just want to sick him a little more. It sickens him to look at.
That's right.
All right, read on.
He said, it sickens me just to look at you. Your tongue should be cut out and your body dismembered so you cannot be found. Better yet, how about a good old-fashioned rope and bucket of tar? Perhaps this will shut your mouth. This writer says, we hate you. We despise you. And the sooner you are gone, the better off you all will be. We are that of the religion of Christianity. We'll challenge you anywhere at any time with the Bible and show you that Christianity is the right way. This person says, we heard you say you have been threatened before, but we advise you, Mr. Mother F. something, Jennings, to take this letter sincerely. They conclude in saying, you son of a B...
I felt so touched. And when I got that letter, I told my secretary, find me a place in Memphis so we can hold our youth conference there. I told the Klan, I'm coming, and you better show up with your sheets.
His message was clear. Hate will not deter him from spreading the message of truth. Despite the letter from the KKK, Gino Jennings boldly decided to visit Memphis to preach the gospel. Ignoring the warnings, he stepped into the city and challenged the Klan to show up at his location. With each word he spoke, he proved that he wasn't afraid of anyone, as his courage came from his faith in God. As he preached the holiness message, he demonstrated that his mission was greater than any fear or intimidation. His actions served as a powerful testament to his boldness as a preacher and his trust in the divine protection provided by God.
I was encouraged to come here by the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK wrote me, and they threatened me. They heard the truth of God message and said that end, because stations like to bleep me out. Right. And you that don't know what end mean, they said a nigger like you should not be on television. They said you make me want to go back and get my sheets. Oh. And they said they want to hang me in their backyard. Oh. So when I got that news, I felt so wonderful. I felt light on my feet. I felt very encouraged because they threatened me and said they're gonna hang me. So I didn't want their words to be in vain. So we are here.
The Klan did not show up at the venue, even though they were aware of Jennings' presence. Gino Jennings proved that standing up for God is worth any risk. He continued to spread the message of faith and truth, defying those who tried to intimidate him. His courage and determination inspired many, showing that fear can't silence the voice of righteousness. Gino's unwavering resolve in the face of danger made him a symbol of strength and defiance against oppression. His story reminds us that standing up for righteousness often comes with great challenges, but it's worth it to fight for what you believe in. Despite their threatening letter and bold challenge, the Ku Klux Klan proved to be cowards when Gino Jennings fearlessly confronted them in Memphis. Their silence in the face of his presence spoke volumes about their true character. By not showing up at the venue as they had warned, they demonstrated their lack of courage to confront someone who stood against their ideology. Gino's boldness exposed their weakness and inability to face those who challenged their hateful beliefs. Despite their history of violence and intimidation, they cowered in the face of Gino's unwavering faith and determination. Their failure to confront him showed that their bark was far worse than their bite, and Gino's courage triumphed over their cowardice. Many people vehemently disagree with the Ku Klux Klan and their actions, recognizing them as a hate group that promotes bigotry and violence. Throughout history, there have been numerous protests and acts of defiance against the Klan and their ideology. Communities, activists, and organizations have organized rallies, marches, and demonstrations to speak out against the Klan's racism and intolerance. Civil rights leaders, religious figures, and politicians have condemned the Klan's actions and worked to counter their influence. From the civil rights movement to the present day, people of all backgrounds have united to oppose the Klan's message of hate. Their rallies have been met with counter-protests, where individuals have stood up for equality, justice, and tolerance. Additionally, legal action has been taken against the Klan and its members for their criminal activities, including hate crimes, terrorism, and violence. Law enforcement agencies and advocacy groups have worked tirelessly to dismantle Klan chapters and prevent them from spreading their message of hate. The widespread condemnation and opposition to the Klan demonstrate that their views are not accepted or tolerated by the majority of society. People continue to speak out against them, showing that their message of hatred will not be allowed to prevail. Many people agree with and support Gino Jennings for the message of truth and righteousness he preaches. His bold stance against hate and his unwavering commitment to spreading the gospel have earned him a strong following and respect from many. Jennings' teachings resonate with those who seek a deeper understanding of faith and spirituality. His emphasis on
TikTok. Whitest states in America. Number 10, South Dakota. Our 10th stop on the White Tour of America brings us to, unsurprisingly, South Dakota. Here in South Dakota, the white population is 80.8%. Actually, 10% of the population in South Dakota is Native American, since there are some pretty big Native American reservations in the Mount Rushmore state. This is home to Imp, Rushmore, which has a giant monument featuring 4 white guys. If you're a white ice fisherman named Ned who drives his snowmobile to work every day, you likely live here in South Dakota. And even the whitest cities in the state have white names like Brandon. Number 9, Wyoming. Everyone knows that cowboys are mostly white, so it's no surprise that the cowboy state is our 9th whitest state, right? Cowboys are a total white thing. They love roping, riding, and mutton busting. For all those who are not aware of mutton busting, it's when a kid tries to ride a sheep around for at least 8 seconds. Here in Wyoming, 83.0% of the population is white. Only 1% is black, and about 2% is Native American here. That's especially true in Sheridan. Most people in Wyoming listen to country music too, which is another white stereotype. Additionally, you can bet that there are a lot of people who go camping and hiking in Wyoming, since that's something that's mostly what white people do. Number 8, North Dakota. We move on to another cold state, North Dakota, where things are definitely mostly white. Here, 83.1% of the population is white, and not just Caucasian. I mean pale and pasty white. It's pretty cold and dark here for a majority of the year, meaning the white population here has to find all sorts of creative ways to remain occupied for long stretches of the year. That means long hours spent indoors watching Seinfeld reruns and playing gin rummy. Hockey is a totally white thing to play, and for many North Dakotans, hockey is a way of life. Did you know 1 in 5 kids plays hockey in North Dakota? It's true. The rest of North Dakota is made up of Native Americans at 5%, Latinos at 4%, and African Americans at 1%. A good example of a really white place in North Dakota, Valley City. Number 7, Kentucky. Here in the state of Kentucky, 83.6% of the population is white. Kentucky is home to horse breeders and bourbon makers too, which are totally white things to do in your spare time. If you live in Kentucky, odds are you drive a pickup truck. We're talking about you. Cold Spring. Kentucky got out as a white people like basketball and chicken, because that's also what Kentucky is well known for. Let us know in the comments below. Number 6, Iowa. Iowa has to be on this list. When you think about Iowa, you think about farming first, and then wrestling. Both are very white things to do. After Texas and Missouri, Iowa is 3rd in America for number of farms. Farmer John, Old MacDonald, and Ray from Field of Dreams are all famous white farmers from Iowa. What else is there to do in Iowa for fun? Cow tipping, building corn mazes, and going to the state fair are popular modes of entertainment. And all 3 are very white things to do in cities such as Carroll and Manchester. Number 5, Montana. Montana only has 900,000 people, and it will be hard to find less minorities in one state if you try. Considering that 85.1% of the population here is white, that means that there are only around 18,000 African Americans and 16,000 Latinos in the entire state. And the whitest place in the state? We kid you not, whitefish. Why is it that only white people like cold weather anyways? White people in Montana love to hunt. They love it so much that a ton of people have deer stands in their front yards in Montana. Montana people will actually call in sick to work on the opening day of hunting season. You can judge a white Montana man by the number of does he plug last winter and by the size of his gun. Number 4, New Hampshire. We're going back up to the Northeast once again, where we stop in the very white state of New Hampshire. 88.9% of people in New Hampshire are white. Like many other states in the New England area, farmers markets, Subarus, and granola bars are really popular in New Hampshire, and all are very much dominated by white people. Did you know that 97% of Subaru owners are white? Why is that? So interesting. Turns out that's basically how white places like Franklin and Claremont are. There's so many white people in New Hampshire that non-white people who move here complain about the lack of diversity. If you speak Spanish when you move to New Hampshire, you'll probably forget how to speak Spanish after a while. Number 3, West Virginia. West Virginia, Mountain Mama. Take me home, my country roads. To the whitest places like Moundsville and New Martinsville. That song is from John Denver, a very white guy who is adored by white people. His song about West Virginia talks about how beautiful the mountain state is, but it doesn't talk about how overwhelmingly non-diverse the state is. A whopping 91.2% of people in West Virginia are white. Most of them are huge NASCAR fans, which is probably the most white sport in the entire world. Kids are practically raised with headsets on in West Virginia. Number 2, Vermont. Our next stop is in Vermont, which is 91.9% white. It may not be a stretch to say that depending on where in Vermont you live, It's possible that you also haven't seen a person of color in a couple months. Vermonters are very outdoorsy types. Camping, hiking, and skiing are all very popular white things to do. People here are also very liberal and progressive. They support charities, care about the environment, and are involved in their community. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are still a big deal in these parts. So is yoga. And just like their friends in New Hampshire, just about everyone drives a Subaru or some other four-wheel drive SUV type vehicle. If you're a person of color in New Hampshire, you're very lonely. The whitest places in Vermont are Rutland and Barre. Number 1, Maine. Welcome to Maine, the whitest state in America. Here, 92.0% of the population is some shade of white, and for a majority of the year, the ground is covered in white too. Some of the whitest places in Maine include Brewer and Belfast, which both clock in at over 96% white. Why is Maine so white? For the most part, an ethnic person who wants to come to Maine with a family of 4 or 5 people is not going to find a home they can afford, and there's almost no rental housing whatsoever here. According to research, the white folks in the Great North don't see racial diversity as a problem like people in the southern states do. It's as if the white people up here don't care that everyone is white. So Maine might just like being so white.
Rental search taking up your mental real estate?
Okay, you're probably wondering why I played that last video. And for people who think like the Ku Klux Klan, who fear that all these different groups of people that surround them, that cause them to act out and do the things that they do, you have a whole 3/4 of the United States, and you worry about other minorities, race mixing. Majority of the places is a mixture of people, but there's places in America is not racially mixed. This is for these white supremacists, and I hope they tune into this, because it doesn't make no sense to have something against the people who is not in your demographic, because a lot of times they feel justified in what they do because maybe some black person that came along and they had a bad experience with. Maybe it was a traffic incident, like the one guy. It was something, maybe the kid got jumped at school. Maybe it was something like, I don't know, just overall. But Columbia, New York, where that idiot came from that shot up the Buffalo, was predominantly white. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody in Columbia, New York is a racist or racist. Why would you go and shoot up some people who never had, that you would never count, who don't live in your neighborhood, don't live in, probably don't even come to Columbia, New York. Probably some black people, unless you're from upstate New York and black, they don't. This probably is a sundown town. But this idiot went in there and just shot black people. So where he lives at, there's no black people. So, but you come to a city like Buffalo, which is probably about an hour and a half away, to go shoot some black people. This is how sick some of these people is. So you're not even in an area where any other racial group is at, but yet you go to an area that starts crap with other racial groups. Then you make it sound like you're the victim of the incident, but you clearly see that they started it. Hey, it's your choice if you want to believe in what you believe, and maybe that's your justification. But maybe we don't race mix or whatever, because I've heard the arguments since the 80s, 70s and 80s and before that. If you don't race, you'll mix. You get other places in the United States where you don't have to racially mix with other groups of people, where there's other people who think like you. Maybe not everybody in that town might not think like you, but at least you see white people, and that shit get you subconsciously that you're white. Why you in a town where there's no other people? Those black people or immigrants or Jewish people, whatever you have a illness with, they're not coming to you. So really, it makes them weak in the sense that you think that providing that there's not going to be no justice in the land, that you can terrorize. And you're no different than any other group of people that's caused terror on this earth. You will have a day of reckoning when you do. And if you do not repent and you die as a Klansman, there's a special place of hell for you. You're a skinhead or any of these people, there's a special place in hell, and you will go straight to hell if you do not release and get out of it. Because one of these days you're going to go old, and you never know when something happens as a human being. And then where your soul goes, it is going to be too late. And there's people that were like you. When I heard this man said that, they have a special section of hell for you that Satan designed, and you will suffer. And so you will suffer the most unimaginable pain because with other people who had this hatred towards other people, despise them for no apparent reason, murdered for no apparent reason. Sorry, it's delete. You're going to, so keep on hating. Because I heard a video from a guy that said when he went down into hell, when he was he was a black guy. When he went down, gang member, he was giving his testimony. And he was showing all the different parts of hell. But there was people down there that had hatred and prejudice. And what he described, it was unbelievable. So you really, you know, you used to say, in your Christianity, your so-called Christianity, your belief will carry you to hell because there were pastors down there. So it's something to think about. Yeah. And what you do, there's the consequences on this earth. What you reap, like anybody else, is what you're going to sow. When you terrorize somebody, it's going to come back on you. It might come back on someone you know. It might come back on someone you love, or hold dear, or something you have. Because you can only do something in the darkness and sneakiness for so long that it come back. But every one of those people got what they got. And they get out of parole, maybe somewhere common sense would hit to them. You can't do that. The ones that got parole. And maybe they would wise up like that man and renounce the Klan. Because when you stand before God trying to justify your white supremacy, it ain't gonna look good. Read the book of Revelation. And you gonna call him the N-word. And see how fast you drop your soul into hell. Let that subconsciously get to you. Because anything dark is something. Anything dark complected person. Just imagine a being that originally, well, all of us, it is bronze gold and woolly hair. And you claim you're Christian. You'll find out. You don't renounce the Klan, you'd be like any other murderer or any other person. You know your time is up. And if God allow the devil to take you out, or let death to take you out, the spirit of death take you out, that's it. So that's clearly the message. You can lead this earth being a fool with hatred in your heart, or suffer the consequences. Go listen to the man that was He was a black dude, was a gang member. He's a pastor now. Hear his story about hell. And let you see. Maybe you'll think twice about hating somebody. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. Until next time, take care, be blessed. And take go for anybody. Don't hate nobody. Because there's some consequences to pay. See you on next video.